Let's see. Hey, how's everybody doing? Last week we had John Defendis. We've got one of John Defendis's friends of years here tonight. We had Troy Zucolato. This week we've got the very famous and renowned and successful person in the personage of Mike Torsha, who has helped thousands of people, and he continues to do this. This is why we have him here. And then later on this week we have Bill Grant. And we have Rick Drazen on Friday. So a lot of good stuff. And really my platform here, the MTFU Longevity, it's not really a podcast yet, but it's a live stream. I'm looking to build a podcast a lot like London Real, to that size, worldwide influence where we can help people be more healthy and enhance their longevity, because we already know that society today seems to think that you are supposed to age and get old, but we here in our small group understand that you can age, you don't have to get old. So there's certain things you have to do, and I'm very lucky here to be able to contact all the guys that I admired as a kid. Mike is a little older than me. I used to see him in the magazines as a kid. Just and the good thing about that is that I practiced what they did my entire life. And you look at a guy like Mike Torsha here. Mike has won bodybuilding contests, Teenage Mr. America, the Collegiate Mr. America, I think the Mr. California also, and not only bodybuilding, but he's a lot like, for example, Troy Zucolato and John Defendis. He was able to take the energy that he put into bodybuilding and being a great bodybuilder, and he translated that into business, wild business success. And too many times we see people not doing that. Bodybuilding as a means to an end is really not viable unless you're Mr. Olympia, and there's only one like that. But Mike has developed some very interesting and unique companies to this day. He works with some of the biggest names in Hollywood. Sly Stallone, Al Pacino, Matt Damon, the list goes on and on. We'll talk more about that. He's trained them. He's gotten them into top shape. He's befriended them. And he's among people who are of the rarefied air that have very high standards for themselves. And I think this is probably one of the reasons why they look so good and they function so good, and they maintain their vitality into later years. And why don't we see more of that? Well, we're going to get into that with Mike, because Mike has gone through this for many, many years. He's on the battlegrounds. His businesses are worldwide in span, so he gets to see a lot of different cultures and how they live and how they behave and what the results are. So, Mike, thanks for coming on, man.
Yeah. My pleasure to be here. Thank you, Mike.
I appreciate. Time is very valuable. Anybody who shares their time to me is really stand up, and you're going to help people by doing this. You started out in the 70s in the gym, and touch upon that. You were a heavy, I don't want to say fat, hey fatso, but you were like a heavy kid, right?
Yeah, well, it's so funny. When I won the Teenage Mr. America, the local paper in my community had the header, "Former Fatty wins Teenage Mr. America." That's the actual title they put on my article.
Do you think they could write that today in today's climate?
No, but I found it kind of funny. I still have that article put away somewhere, and once in a while I glance at it because it shows a picture of me at 14 years old flexing in front of my mother, because I said to my mother, "Take a picture now so people can see what I looked like when I first started." And it has me against the kitchen wall with the flowered wallpaper, and it looks like a typical Italian kitchen. And so and then it shows that picture, and then shows me holding up the statue that I won in 1976 when I won the teenage.
I'm going to interrupt you because Defendis is here. Defendis is always lurking. He wants me to ask you about Trinidad.
Oh my God, Johnny and I went to Trinidad.
Let's save that, because we got a little segment on John Defendis later on. John, you're going to be one of the people I ask about. Mike's going to give impressions on. So, your questions are welcome, and I remember them all. But let me just let Mike explain more about his youth. And Mike, when you were heavy and you showed your mom the 14-year-old picture, in your head, did you know that you were going to win Teenage Mr. America? You had that, you were patient enough?
No way. I just thought I was going to lose some weight, maybe build some muscle. I never thought I'd be a competitive bodybuilder. It just evolved that way. Frank Masello, which was the original man who got me started in bodybuilding at the YMCA in White Plains, his very close friend was Steve Mahalik.
Oh boy.
And that's how the correlation became, because then Frank introduced me to Steve, who is like the mad scientist as a bodybuilding, as Johnny will definitely agree with. And he had types of training principles that were very effective, but they weren't very orthodox. And they sometimes could be over the top to the point where you had to really endure a lot of emotional, physical abuse because of Steve's techniques into inspiring people to train harder. He would use these unorthodox ways of motivating.
Mike, is your real message here that Mahalik also tried to kill you, among other people?
No, he didn't try to drown me like Johnny, but he certainly impressed upon me that if I really wanted to be a champion, I had to earn it.
Right.
And the only way to earn it was to work hard, in which Steve was really a genius at training. I got to admit, he was a genius, but his methods were not the style I would prefer for me to teach people, but it was effective. Definitely was effective.
So you're training, you lost the fat, you started winning some shows, and you won the Teenage America, and then what then? Did you went to college because you won the Collegiate Mr. America?
Yeah, the year after that, 1977, I went to the Oklahoma State University to compete in the Collegiate Mr. USA, and my dear friend and many other bodybuilders, Bob Grushton he was also a mentor, and he truly was instrumental in really helping many people like myself and John DeFennis and many other champions become who we are today. He was not only a mentor in bodybuilding, but he was just a person that really cared about other individuals. I mean, when it came to personal relationships with girlfriends and, family matters, Bob was always there, and he was a great listener, offered sensible advice, but he was a very important part of my life. And it saddens me he recently passed away, but there were many others. There's Chris Dickerson, there's Arnold Schwarzenegger, there's Bill Grant, who's coming on, Rick Drayson. Yeah. There's so many other bodybuilders that participated in me being where I am today. And I would never be where I am today if it was not for the help of so many other pro bodybuilders that touched my lives. The Mensah brothers, Casey Viator, Arthur Jones, who created Nautilus, Jack LaLanne, and going on forever.
He's one I really would have wanted to meet, and too late on that. I am going to be interviewing his wife, Elaine. So you did very well in bodybuilding, and I think you took fourth in the nationals as well, which is obviously the most rarefied of era, and that was 1981, maybe.
Yeah, I think that was a turning point where I decided.
Yeah, that's what I'm mentioning. That's when you said, this is enough. I'm going to use this as a
springboard. I decided to create my personal training business.
But before that, Joe Weider did fly you out.
Oh yeah, Joe Weider flew me to California, and he impressed upon me because he said, "Kid, I've been watching your career. You look fantastic in competition time, but then I see pictures of you and you're big, bloated, and heavy." He said, "Let me give you an analogy.
Back then, though, wasn't it true that we would bulk up and just,
we thought that? Yeah,
that's what everyone thought back then.
Like Larry Scott trained me for a period of time, and he got me hooked on this Blair protein.
Real Blair.
Yeah, and putting whole milk in the Blair protein.
A lot of guys would use heavy cream.
Yeah, and it made me, really thick, and I really gained good size, but it wasn't the quality that I really needed to win championships. So Joe impressed upon me. I was in his office in Woodland Hills, and he said, If you want to be a champion bodybuilder, you have to think as if you were a concert pianist. Concert pianist practices every single day, all day long, sometimes 6, 8, 10 hours a day, all year round. You train 3 months before a show, and the rest of the year you just eat like a hog, you blow up, and then by the time you get down into constant shape, you've sacrificed a lot of muscle. If you want to be a successful bodybuilder and have a successful career, you need to think as if you're a concert pianist. Every single day, you need to eat right, exercise, get plenty of rest, and you will succeed.
He was talking about detail.
Detail. Oh, no, now, Joe is the kind of person that would tell you straight out, "You're like fat, kid."
You know, it's funny you say that because Brian Semple just wrote, "This is better than the things that were half made up in the muscle mags." And you and I, in our pre-talk here, we were talking about how directness should be appreciated, but it's not always. You know, like Weider telling you, "Look, you're not ready." You know, as insulting
Yeah,
as
Joe made it clear that if you want to be a champion bodybuilder, you need to train like a champion bodybuilder every single day of your life. You don't just train for a show 3 months out of the year and expect to be a champion bodybuilder. You'll just be an average local competitor that may win a few shows, but you'll never be a true champion unless you.
That was me. And you know what John Defendis said? He's top trainer like you. Where I know you don't train as many people anymore, but John looked at my picture. He said, "I took plenty of guys like you and got them up to 270." You know, I said, "Well, I was probably doing some things wrong." He says, "Well, you probably just have to do it differently." That was very diplomatic of him. But anyway, so Weider, you know, brought you out there, and what did you just sense that, you know, going for the big titles as a pro wasn't for you?
I realized that in the sport of bodybuilding, it was a lot of things that were going on. There was a lot of politics. There were a lot of things that were more involved in just getting on stage and looking the best. Because many of my dear friends that have won championships have been in shows where they deserved to win, but they didn't win for one reason or another. Who was judging the competition? So it was more like, hey, I could train my ass off. I could diet all year round, look amazing. But if there's some gym owner where that person, you know, trains at their gym, you're going to get etched out. Or who knows what else there could be involved. But there was a lot of drugs involved in the world of bodybuilding. And I got to a turning point in my life, and Jim Manion wanted me to go to the World Championships. I said, "Jim, you know what?
Mike, what year was that?
That was around, I think, 81 when I topped.
That's when America would win all 4 classes every year. And now the funny thing is, we haven't been a presence for, I don't know, 25 years now. I don't think we're even on the landscape. I don't know if that's because of drug testing or supposed drug testing or whatever it might be. But yeah, that was back when it would have been more viable for you, I think.
Yeah, and Jim said, "Mike, we'll fly you. You're going to compete in the World Championships." And I just said, "Jim, you know what? It's become chemical warfare." And granted, I know that I do the right thing as a bodybuilder. I show up at shows. I'm very supportive. I know the politically correct. I am. But it's become so bad with the drugs that I just felt that, why am I doing this? I started out as a fat kid who just wanted to lose some weight, feel good about myself. Do I want to continue on and chance doing something that damages my organs, just my mental health? I decided enough.
You know, in our pre-show talk on the phone, which was about as good as any interview I've done. It was fun and very illuminating. We won't mention his name, but we were talking about a very high top pro, likable, nice guy, and he even told you, he said, you know, I don't see, you know, I'm spending more money on drugs than I will win. So, you know, why would I do that? You know, and I think that's probably, it could be the case today.
It is. A lot of pros will prepare for a show, but if you think, seriously, the drugs that they have to take for the show, the amounts of food they have to consume, which is massive.
Oh, like 12 meals a day.
And then there's the supplementation, and then there's the tanning, or just everything in general, the cost.
Very expensive.
And how can you have a full-time job and train for a show? It's really, really hard. And quite frankly, today it's become a very unhealthy sport because of where it's gone. And look at this distended abdominal walls. Look at the quality of the physiques have worsened. When I was competing, when Johnny D was competing, when many other champions, Zucolato, I mean, I could go on and on, Labrada, everybody. We had magnificent physiques. We worked hard. Yeah. We looked beautiful, chiseled, like Herculean figures, like Steve Reeves. Today, they look like creatures out of a sci-fi movie.
There's no, being an anatomist that I am, you don't even, a back shot. You don't see the fingers in the deltoid. You don't see the clean lines between the brachialis and the, but going back, way back, it was physical culture when it started out in the days of Grimmick and Reeves. And those guys actually trained for health, and muscles was a byproduct of that. And then of course, things evolved where it was more getting jacked and big and all that, but it's so far afield from physical culture now and health. We're going to talk about just the regular people and how you help them maintain health, youth, longevity. But we were mentioning, when you have bad habits, the length of both arms, it's awfully hard to surmount that when you're trying to help yourself, right?
Well, that's why I've maintained having a quality physique even at the age of 63, is because I do it for myself. I do it for my health. I eat because I enjoy clean food. I don't like drinking soda. I don't like eating high sugar foods. I don't feel good when I put it in my body. It's like if I'm driving a Ferrari and I put the lowest grade fuel in the car, it's not going to run correctly. But if
everybody, Mike said he'll still talk to me even though I'm drinking like 1 can a day. Yeah, somebody told me this will turn your brain into mush. I'm like, can you cite your references for that? Mush, really? I mean, it's 1 can. But I understand what you're saying because the body thrives on regularity. I was telling you how anytime I see you, you're like a rock. So obviously you're doing the same things all the time. So if you were to all of a sudden ingest like a greasy, disgusting cheeseburger or soda, your body's not going to like that very much.
No, it would actually reject it. I'd have stomach cramps and gas, and I'd feel uncomfortable. I wouldn't sleep well. And to this day, I don't crave junk food. I just don't, because I feel ill when I eat it. And
what about those cakes and pies I see you baking on there?
Yeah, but what I've done is I've taken recipes and I've re-engineered it. So it's not full of all that sugar, all that fat. It's quality foods. Like I've taken the graham cracker crust and I took wheat germ and I chop it up fine. And then I add vanilla extract. I combine xylitol and stevia with egg whites. And then I bake it. And it tastes and with cinnamon, and it tastes just like graham cracker crust. Then I take the fat-free cream cheese. So basically, everything is lower fat, low sugar, low sodium.
You take these recipes. Do you market them to people because you're making them?
I have a lot of celebrities that I've given. Roseanne Barr loves my chocolate fudge brownie cake, which again, it's all natural ingredients. In fact, I use black beans mixed with the chocolate, really? and it's got avocado, which makes it creamy.
How'd you figure that out?
Well, my family had an Italian restaurant for many years, and my uncle was a chef, and my uncle taught me how to prepare foods. Because one of the things I would do with clients is like when I was training Al Pacino and Joe Mantegna and many other actors, I helped re-engineer their favorite recipes. So I gave a recipe to Al Pacino how to make the best baked meatballs instead of frying it in the oil, baking it. So I showed him how to make different foods that were still enjoyable, but still allow him to lose the weight, have energy, and not feel bloated and uncomfortable. Because a lot of times when the food has too much fat, too much sugar, too much salt, you get bloated and you don't feel good about yourself. So,
is it true with people who act? You've got the A-list of the A-list people, the actors. It's a very fine line on film. It's as you know, being a bodybuilder, it's unforgiving. So if there's any slight variance from their best camera readiness, that could screw them up, right? If you give them the wrong thing to eat or something.
Here's an example. One famous actor said to me, I was on this low-carb diet, and I kept having a problem remembering my lines. And I said to him, do you realize you need at least 40 to 60 grams of carbohydrate for brain function? And it's so true, when you deprive your body of carbs, you will forget things. You won't retain information as clearly as you do. So what I would do is make sure, even though we were training to look like Matt Damon for the Bourne Identity, there were certain days I would go down to 150 grams of carbs, because if I went any lower, he wouldn't be able to remember all those lines. I mean, especially Matt had pages and pages and pages and pages to remember. So I made sure they had enough carbohydrate for brain function, but not enough carbohydrate to retain body fat.
Just to pause for one moment, we go back to comments every so often. John Defendis, bottom line, Mike was smart. Joe Salato, he's saying you're right. And Janet Marcico, I know Janet. Hey, Mike, long time. Mike Torsha, how are you? So,
Guys, great.
All the people you come across, you've affected so many people. We could talk more about your baking, cooking, and preparations and whatnot. But you became a big time trainer, very renowned throughout California.
Yeah, I enjoyed it because for a period of time I was really having fun. I'd be on a movie set. I'd be with a well-known actor. I mean,
how did you get your first breakthrough as far as like a big star or somebody?
I went to the Beverly Hills Hotel for like 3 years in a row. I'd go up to the concierge desk every few months and say, "Hey, I am Mike Torsha. I'm a personal trainer. If there's ever a guest that needs a trainer, here's my card." And they're like,
Mike, this is when personal training was in its genesis. It was just training for the most part, right?
So I was just going to the Hotel Bel Air, Beverly Hills Hotel, all the hotels, and just reminding the concierge, I'm here. And they'd always tell me, we have a trainer, Mr. Torsha, but when we have a need for another trainer, you'll be the first one we call. So sure enough, I go to the Beverly Hills Hotel, and I was on a date. And I was taking this young lady to go into the Polo Lounge for a glass of wine. And as I'm walking past the concierge desk, I felt I don't want to bug them again. And this concierge's name was Richard. Goes, "Mr. Torsha, may I have a word with you?" And I said, "Sure." And he goes, "Please have your lady friend have a seat in the lounge, and I want to talk to you." I said, "Okay, fine." So I go over to see him, and he said, "This is your lucky day. We have a VIP guest. He wants to have a trainer tomorrow morning at 6 a.m. Are you available?" I go, "I certainly am." And he says to me, he goes, "Great." He says, "So I'll see you tomorrow morning at 6 a.m.
He wouldn't tell you who it was?
No, he didn't say who it was.
No, okay.
And then he leans over and he goes, "And also, just a little suggestion. Lose the girlfriend. You could do better than that." Well,
no kidding.
It was a penthouse pet. And she was very good. Yeah.
Wait, this girl you were with was a penthouse pet?
Yeah.
You could do better?
Well, he's talking about quality-wise.
Oh, I understand. Okay.
You know how they are. Mm-hmm. So I just giggled off, and I took her out of the hotel right away because I didn't want to piss him off. I just left. So the next day I show up. I go down to the gym, and it's Ralph Lauren.
Wow.
And Ralph Lauren was preparing to do a guest appearance on Friends. So Ralph wanted me to help him get in shape to look really great on Friends. And so sure enough, we trained every day. And
how long? What do you have, like 2
weeks?
weeks?
For a few weeks. It was for a few weeks. And I got in great shape.
You think he was looking at himself inaccurately, like he wasn't as bad as he thought, or was it unrealistic as far as the expectations?
No. He didn't really do much weight training. He would run a little bit. He'd do a little yoga. I never really did anything. He goes, "I really want to feel." He's not really. I know you're not going to make a major difference in a few weeks, but I want to feel strong. I want to feel vibrant. I said, "Well, you will feel it." So when he was on camera, he said, "Mike, I felt amazing. Thank you." So I think it was more of how he felt about himself more than his actual physique, because you're not going to make much difference in 2-3 weeks. You just can't.
I think you'll agree with this. I was giving a lecture some years ago, a group of doctors, and it was the first lecture was 8 a.m. at some hotel in Arizona. So people were running to be there on time. They had sheet marks on their face. They were, drinking coffee. They're sleeping on the desk. There was one guy sitting there very erect. So I pointed to him, and this kind of ties into your client. I said, "You?" And he goes, "Yeah." I go, "You work out?" He goes, "Yeah." "You drink a lot of water?" "Yeah." "You eat a tight diet?" "Yeah." I says, "I could tell just by looking at you." And and then you can see people who just are off and they're not doing the right things for themselves, and you project differently. So maybe that's what he was saying. He felt that that betterment. It wasn't necessarily just the physicality. He just felt more positive, confident. Was that what it was, you think?
Yeah, it was the way he felt about himself. I mean, like when I trained Al Pacino, Al did it for his health. He did want me to prepare him for the movie Insomnia with Robin Williams, where he had to run in the field, actually in the woods, after this chase they had. And he was afraid he was going to injure himself because when Al was doing the movie with Robert De Niro, Heat, he had that scene in the street where he was chasing after him.
Yeah.
He tore his hamstring off the bone. The tendon tore off. And they had to shut down production for 7 weeks.
Was this while you were training him or no?
No. He injured himself when he did the movie Heat.
Right.
He was doing this other movie, and he said, listen, I have to have a running scene in the woods with Robin Williams. I'm afraid I may injure myself again. So I need you to get me in good shape. But also I want to do for my health. Because at the time, when he was married to Beverly, he had 2 daughters, the twins. And he said, I want to be able to also dance at my daughter's weddings. So he said, I want to be healthy. So after the movie's over, I want you to continue training me because I want to be healthy. And that's what I loved about Al. It wasn't about having a ripped physique. No. He just wanted to be physically fit for that scene. And then after that, just be physically healthy for his children and just for himself. And that was the difference between training Matt Damon for The Bourne Identity or Roseanne Barr for her reality show or Sinbad for his comeback or Nicole Kidman for another project or Keith Urban or any of these people that I worked with over the years it was for himself. Now, another person that I trained, and I really loved this guy, was Rodney Dangerfield. And it was not for losing weight. It's because he had a very bad health condition, his heart. Wow. And Rodney didn't take good care of himself. So I worked out with Rodney to get him to be healthier and physically more fit. And those are the type of clients that I really gravitated towards. Is because I wanted to make a difference in their life, not just for being really ripped on a screen for a movie. It touched me more that they wanted my help and guidance as a health advisor more than some celebrity trainer getting them a 6-pack for a movie.
Yeah, you're a health strategist.
It's longevity, like you, what your books are about.
Yeah.
Quality life.
Hey, Mike, would you say the wide span of people you've always dealt with, maybe they come in at first and they're talking in terms of getting ripped and veins and looking a certain way, but you've got to impress upon them. It's really about working on your health, and a byproduct is how you look. Is that a hard sell?
No, because here's the thing is, when I still advise a lot of celebrities, when Sean Combs reached out and had
Puff Daddy?
Yeah. He wanted me, he goes, man, whatever you do.
I'm sorry. I try not to. I hate talking over people because this is about you. But was this like a big referral system? Like you had success with Ralph Lauren and then everybody heard?
The word gets out. It just publicists, agents, managers, attorneys, word gets out. He reached out to me because he had gained weight. He wasn't feeling good about himself. And when he met me, he goes, man, see, I've met a lot of these trainers that are in their 20s and they're young bucks and they're ripped. But man, you are more ripped than the 20-year-old trainer that was training me a few months ago. He goes, whatever you're doing is what I want to be doing. So that's why I created a whole health program for him and many other high-profile people, is because they see that I'm not 20 years old, but I'm healthy, I'm vibrant, I'm full of energy, and they want to be healthy. They want to have what I have. And they can have that, and they do get it. But it's by proper steps, like with your books. Yes. You are educating people on the proper steps of creating a healthy lifestyle, how to ease into it. Not a rest program for 6 weeks.
No.
It's a lifestyle.
No. It's the fact that you exist and you've done it and you're in the flesh right there. I mean, you're still like a rock. I mean, your legs. And the interesting thing is, and I'm sure you're aware of this, above the age of 35 or 40, something called sarcopenia. It's a natural attrition of muscle, particularly from the lower extremities in men. Your muscle loss, it's inexplicable. And I don't see you suffering much of that. Your legs are still very well developed. And, that's part of health because healthy musculature protects your bones, density and all that. But is there any, there's no secret, but how have you kept your legs in such good shape? Because I see that as a repeated refrain with a lot of my older clients.
Well, the thing is, I found that the frequency of training the muscle groups has allowed me to keep my body very lean, have those crustaceans in my quads and my hamstrings, crustaceans in my obliques and serratus, and my erector muscles, because I train the muscles twice a week. I also continue to do trisets and supersets. I have very short rest periods if I'm not supersetting or trisetting, and I think that's very effective. So throughout the whole workout, I'm breathing heavy. I'm soaking wet when I'm done. I only train, I do 3 sets of abs, which is 3 sets of crunches. And that's what I've always done for my abs, is just crunches.
You're still deep and shredded, by the way.
That's the one exercise that works for me. If you do leg raises, most of it is hip flexors.
Yeah,
you're not really truly hitting the abdominal walls. And if you're really working the abdominals correctly with a crunch and really doing it, that's all you need.
And you don't need a lot of reps.
Fast.
I used to literally, because I read about Frank Zane, how he would go for 2 hours and 40 minutes on a Roman chair. And so I would do tens of thousands. I had good abs, but it's like Ronnie Coleman. We mentioned him, and I'd like to get him on here. Ronnie squatted 800 pounds when he was in contest shape. And he did 2 reps, and they asked, and now unfortunately Ronnie is a mess. I mean, his body's ravaged. It's sad to see, but he has no regrets. In fact, somebody asked, would you have gone lighter? He goes, my only regret is that I didn't do 5 reps. But ask yourself this, and even with the abs, and you don't need much if you're doing them right, would Ronnie have gotten the same results with 600 pounds? I tend to think possibly, yeah, because it's the law of diminishing returns. After a while, the receptors, and they're not receiving anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, what do you think of that as far as overdoing?
I think a lot of bodybuilders train way too heavy, and they still train too heavy. And if they just would train smart, that's the main thing, train smart. Because you got to remember, your body to a certain point can only, take a certain amount of pressure on the tendons and ligaments. That's why a lot of bodybuilders are tearing tendons and ligaments, torn pecs, rotator cuff, meniscus, bicep, tricep. Many of the pros today have unfortunately torn muscle groups because of over the years of excessive amounts of weights, and the tendons have frayed, and in just one day it snaps. And that's a bodybuilder's nightmare. So that's why I've been smart about continually training smart, not going too heavy, and always making sure that I'm aware of a discomfort pain. There's a difference between a good pain when you're training a muscle and then a stabbing hot pain, which means there's damage being done.
It's all about discomfort, not pain. You're right, because you're not into the damage. And we discussed this earlier. I asked you about early on, why do you have such good longevity? And I asked you, Mike, when in your early training, when you looked for the mentors to help you, would you say you were in there to work the muscle or move weight? He said, of course, to work the muscle. These guys told me, you don't want to wreck your joints and your ligaments and your cartilage and all that. And you were a bodybuilder. You were building the muscle, which is, you're working the muscle. You're not just moving a weight around and skipping the muscle. And, that holds true to this day.
Well, I also learned from others' mistakes. Right. I saw Mike and Ray Menser after they retired. They looked horrible. They were hunched over, limping. Their knees were shot, their back was shot, their shoulder was shot.
They were still young men.
And they were still young men, but they really trained excessively heavy to the point of it just really did damage to their joints.
Hey, Mike, on an aside, do you happen to know this? Because they were all about, Menser was like 1 set per body part. I tend to think that there had to be a time when he was training much more to develop.
No. I trained with Mike and Ray. They did more than 1 set. They just said that wasn't true. When I went down to Deland, Florida, to train with Arthur Jones and Casey Viator and Dr. Edward.
Did you tangle with alligators down there by any chance?
It was so funny. When the first day I was there, I wanted to use the restroom.
How did that happen? Did he hear about you? Because
he reached out to me and saw pictures of me from the Teenage Mr. America, and he couldn't believe how lean I was. So he said I wanted to do a hydrostatic, weighing of you and really find out your your percentage of body fat. So Dr. Ellington Darden conducted it, and my body fat was 3.8%. And Arthur Jones said, you cannot maintain that low percentage of body fat because even the fat between the organs are so low, you can actually die.
Dangerous.
So he told me that to put on, it was right after the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I was so shredded. So I put on some weight, and I was training with Casey Viador, and I was using some of Arthur Jones' experimental equipment that to this day nobody's ever seen.
Mike, stop at experimental equipment, because these comments I won't be able to see them. Just read a couple of them. I remember watching Mike win a contest here in Waterbury, Connecticut back in the late 70s. Looked hard as a rock. That's my friend Butch Paradise, big time trainer here in Connecticut. Joel Green, never feel sorry for a guy who lives on a 97-foot yacht. That's Joel Green. He says, I don't do one sit-up and I'm more ripped than both of you put together. That ain't saying much about me right now. Mike's probably shredded. And they're also asking, are you training at home these days, Mike?
Yeah, I mean, I have a gym in my home. I mean, I always believe in having something at home, because there's times when I'm very busy and I'd prefer to at home. So I've got my adjustable bench, I've got my weight, I've got my tread. I mean, I got everything I need to get a full body workout and feel good. And I have 3 dogs, so I go to the park, and sometimes I go run with the dogs, and there you go, and get my fresh air and sunshine,
So going back to Arthur Jones and his equipment. All right, I cut you off.
So the first day I was there, I saw a sign that said, keep out. Now, Arthur Jones was a little bit of a twisted guy, had a funny sense of humor. So I thought that was his joke for the restroom, keep out.
Right,
so I opened the door, and all these, I don't know if they're crocodiles, alligators. There was a big pool. It was disgusting. It looked like all green. And it was all these alligators. And they were running towards the door, because I guess he throws meat in there and he would just feed them. So I slammed the door, and he goes, what the hell are you doing? They could have bitten your leg off. And I go, killed you. I go, I was just looking for the restroom. He goes, does that look like the restroom? I go, well, I thought it was a joke. So sure enough, I realized that was his pets. He would feed them raw meat, and you don't ever go through that door. You don't open that door. And in the restroom, he had buckets, because everybody that would train there, the first few days, they'd be puking. Wow. They were the puke buckets.
Straight up.
Yeah, because that's how intense he was.
Right.
But there wasn't just one set. There were multiple sets.
And you know Joe Means. I'm sure you're familiar with Joe Means. Yeah, he had an experience down there very similar to yours, and he goaded him with an alligator. It was like a test. He had to get through it. I mean, it sounded, it's hard enough getting in the gym and working legs, but then you have to hopefully not get big. Let's switch gears for a second. Obesity, you help families. You don't just pick on like one element. You think the rootedness to getting people healthy and better longevity is to help the whole family unit. What do you think of obesity and the comorbidities that come along with it? Like right now, we've got the virus, and you're particularly susceptible if you're obese. You have a heart problem, high blood pressure, and diabetes. Obviously, if you don't have those, you've bolstered your immune system. But this is a big problem, isn't it? I mean, as far as, the government says 30% of the population is obese. I'd say more like 70.
Oh yeah, it's more than that. But here's my issue with the governors of our, like especially California, the governor of New York. I think gyms are a necessity, because it's a known fact that if you have a strong immune system, if you're physically fit, you're more apt to be able to fight off germs, viruses, diseases, etc. Also, when you stimulate muscles, there is hormones that are produced and antibodies that are produced that help fight off infection. And to take people and now lock them in their homes and not allow them to bike ride, to go for hikes, go for runs, go to the beaches and be active. I'm saying keep your social distance, as supposed to be 6 feet apart. Like in Ventura County in California, you can go to the beach, but you can't lay there. You have to be active. They're allowing them to use the parks. The rates are going down because people are allowed to be active. I think it's essential that people exercise, stay physically fit, because it's going to help us. Instead of sitting around vegetating in our homes, not allowing their bodies to be stimulated. It's going to affect people physically, mentally, and emotionally. I'm been doing research. I've spoken to several hospitals in the emergency rooms. There's a significant increase in suicides, in spousal abuse. People are getting on each other's nerves. Child abuse is through the roof. People are locked in. We need to get back into the parks. We need to be structured, but we need to get people out, being more physically active. They need to get back in the gyms. The gyms could do cleanliness. They can do separation of the cardio equipment, roping them off so you're not right next to someone. But we need to get people back into the gyms, back into the parks, and allow them to build their resistance, keep their immune system strong, and be physically active. We all have to respect each other's space. We need to wear the mask. We need to be wearing gloves, and also cleansing your hands if you're not wearing gloves. But I think we need to be smart now, and I think we need to strategically make it where maybe gyms will limit a certain amount of people on the gym floor. Allow people to get back in the gym, because imagine all the bodybuilders, all the fitness competitors, they're having emotional and psychological breakdowns.
Oh, yeah.
Let's set aside the body weakening, because in 72 hours, the muscle atrophies.
Yeah.
It's how many weeks it's been. It's detrimental. And I'm already petitioning Mayor Garcetti. I'm petitioning Cuomo. I'm petitioning everybody. I'm doing everything I can to really get us back on track with a sensible approach to now go in stages, but we need to get back to work. We need to get back into the gyms. We need to get our parks back. We need to be hiking again. People need their lives back. And I feel it's unconstitutional what they're doing right now.
Brian Semple just said, here in Canada, the liquor and cannabis stores are open, but no gyms. It's insane. And like, if your voice isn't heard, whose voice is going to be heard, because it's very persuasive. But let me ask you, we alluded to this in our talk earlier about food production and, how bad it is now as far as, is it even really food that people are consuming? And the metabolites, the synthetics, the plastics, all that. I mean, what's your take on all that as far as food consumption and its role in building health or not?
It's essential. When people say what percentage is nutrition, what percentage is exercise, it's like baking a cake.
Yeah.
It's all the ingredients. It's
everything.
The nutrition, it's the exercise, it's how you deal with stress, how much rest. The muscles grow when you rest. It's not growing when you're training in the gym, you're breaking down the cell walls. People have to understand, think of health as a recipe. You need all the ingredients in order to have a healthy lifestyle. It's the way you live your life, how you handle adversity in your life, how you handle everything in business, because
does this stem from a strong mind, Mike? And if you don't have such a strong mind, can you cultivate one?
You can. It's all about developing it. It's developing a skill set. Like if an actor goes to workshops and goes to school to be studying as an actor, it's the ability to study your lines, gives you the capacity to remember those lines. It's just like training. You go to the gym and you train and you follow a program and you eat correctly and you get plenty of rest. You will grow. You'll be healthier. It's a matter of taking the time and the effort and do it smart, not just going out, as I used to say it, and just do it. No, do it smart. You have to think.
Have some strategy, in other words.
I mean, like, for instance, I donate a lot of time to children's charities, anything with animal charities, any other charities that I feel are worthy causes. I do that because I feel good about giving back. It's not because, I want a tax write-off. No, it's because I want to make a difference. Like I told you a few weeks ago, I rescued a German Shepherd that was running in the street and got hit by a car. I picked the dog up, I put it in the car, I took it to the vet. I had its surgeries and everything. After she got healthy, I posted on Facebook looking for a home for her. But guess what? I fell in love with this dog. I kept her. Now I got 2 pit bulls and a German Shepherd. But you know what? I did it because I wanted to save a life. I could not stand to see this dog running in the street and get hit again by another car and possibly die or cause an accident where someone can get hurt. That's why I do things, is for a purpose. Like right now, I told you, I'm supplying fire department, police department, government agencies with masks and gloves and gowns because I have a company that provides on-demand medical, and I'm doing it for the purpose of giving back and helping.
Well, I think you recognize your responsibility to your sphere of influence, which is pretty broad, because you can. And why wouldn't you do that? Because it comes back to you. It really does. And some people think they don't believe in altruism. I don't even think it's that. I think it's just something that you do. But let me address this. You look at statistics, and whoever they is, that mystical eye in the sky, they say that over the past 20 years, male testosterone has decreased by 1% a year. That's 20%. So what do you think of that? Why is that happening, do you think, in the male species now, kind of, feminized in a way?
I think a lot of men, first of all, are not really weight training. They may say they're weight training, but I find that if you train smart and you train consistently, it'll stimulate your own hormone production. But I think a combination of a lot of things. There's consuming food that have hormones. There's other exposures to toxins. Now, in a health program, it's not just a diet and exercise program. It's also your exposure to toxins, aerosol sprays, other things you put on your skin, things that are in your office, in your home, in the schools. The exposure to toxins is a whole nother part of creating a healthy lifestyle. If you really assess the things that you touch, breathe, you put on your body, because the skin is an organ, you're exposing yourself to chemicals, which can affect you in an adverse way. Also lowering your testosterone, raising your estrogen. Stress also causes hormonal imbalance. I think there's a lot of factors, not just one thing that's affecting why men have lower testosterone levels, but it's a proven fact that if you exercise regularly, specifically weight training, it will stimulate bone density and hormone production. But it's being smart, making sure, again, people do so much cardio. Now, Johnny D doesn't believe in cardio, but I think if you do cardio, it should be intense like weight training. Sprint. Right. I ride a stationary bike like I just stole the bike. I do it so intense, but for short periods of time that it's almost like weight training. I get high from it.
Right.
But if you get on cardio and do 45 minutes to an hour, your testosterone level is going to plummet. Your estrogen level is going to skyrocket. Your cortisol level is going to skyrocket. You're going to be a mess. I think people have to understand how the body chemistry works and realize as you age, you can't train the same way you did when you're 20 years old. No. There's no way. No way. The body.
Well, speaking of hormones, how do you feel about TRT therapy for men who need it?
It's essential. It's essential for physical reasons, emotional and psychological. Depression, if you're lethargic, if you're not having sex with your lady, that marriage is, I don't care how good of friends you are.
It's not going to make it.
It's not going to happen.
No.
It's a matter of having the proper balance. And if you have low T, go to a doctor, or go to a doctor that knows what they're doing. Like Troy Zucolato. He has these hormone replacement clinics, and Troy's a very, very good businessman, and he makes sure that everybody that comes into his clinics know exactly what the person should be taking. Not only other, custom-made formulations that can cause you to have cancer and other issues later on in life. Now, also, there's the growth hormone. If you're predestined for cancer,
that was my next question.
That's the last thing you want to do is growth hormone. It can wake up those dormant cells, and that'll be your nightmare. I would just say if someone has low T, if they just take enough to replace what they are lacking, that's fine. But not to be taking extreme amounts, which will be causing really serious issues. And it's not going to make it better. It just makes it worse.
Mike, given the fact that, there's so much we don't know about GMOs and whatnot, and also the leaching of soil, where you're growing things, but they're just not getting the minerals and nutrients because it's gone from the soil. Processing, synthetics. Okay, so you're not getting the proper nutritional equivalents delivered to you from your food. So how do you feel about supplementation on a limited basis, or do you go all out with that as far as supplements, natural supplements?
Well, here's the thing is, and I've done extensive research. If you go and you see what goes on with these farms, which I've visited farms, they're not allowing the fruits and vegetables to go to the full growth pattern. If you take bananas, you'll see a lot of bananas are green. If they stay in they ripen on the vine, like a tomato, like the cucumbers, like the other fruits and vegetables, it'll get the full growth rate because it's getting all the minerals it needs from the soil. But what they're doing is they're gassing the bananas and gassing these other fruits and vegetables to shorten to speed up the growth rate. But if you take it off the vine before it's fully become ripened, what's going to happen is not going to get all of the minerals that are in the soil.
Right.
It's supposed to have. So the quality.
I'm sorry. Why do they do that? To have a quicker turnover of product?
Yes, they do. And what they're doing is they're not allowing it to go through the whole growth pattern. And I've really researched this. So besides that, also a lot of times they're not rotating the crops. They're not replenishing the farmland. So it's lacking all the vitamins and minerals, mainly the minerals that needed to grow to the full capacity of being a highly nutritious fruit and vegetable. So supplements are important. I think if you eat a lot of fruits and vegetables, you're not going to eat enough throughout the day where you're going to get all your minerals and your vitamins. So I think a good multivitamin mineral. I also believe in the omega-3s because maybe you're not eating enough fish oil in your diet. But I truly think that no matter who you are, whether you're a vegan, a vegetarian, paleo, whatever type of diet you follow, you should have a certain amount of supplements to augment your diet, not to replace foods, but to augment. I know a lot of people that live off of protein shakes and protein bars.
It's not food.
No, it's not food. I don't rely on that. No. I might put a protein powder, whey isolate powder with my oatmeal to flavor it a little bit, but it's a quality protein I'm putting in there with my oatmeal, with a little cinnamon, with a little or vanilla extract, whatever it may be. But I'm not just drinking a shake instead of having my eggs and my toast or my cereal or my fruit. Whole foods are the best medicine for the human body.
Hey, Mike, yeah, that's very interesting, and I agree. The role of inflammation it's been proven to be present in almost every disease state. What say you as far as efforts to decrease inflammation and anti-aging, staying young, longevity?
Well, I think, if you look at a few different factors, okay, stress is very damaging to the body. It can cause inflammation. It can cause other factors that will actually eventually cause inflammation to the body. I also think consuming a lot of artificial sweeteners will cause inflammation. Then there's food allergies, which cause inflammation. And if you take an inflammatory blood test, you can identify exact foods and spices that cause a inflammatory effect on the body, which can cause you from having headaches, body aches, also cause you from not burning fat efficiently. It affects your body in a negative way. I think people should get the inflammatory food test to identify what foods cause negative effects on the body.
What test is that, Mike? Do you know the name of that?
Inflammatory food test.
Oh, no kidding. Okay.
And it's very comprehensive. You can get it so you can find out if basil or pepper or parsley creates a certain effect. And when they give you the results, there is the green zone, which means you can eat plenty of. Then there's the yellow zone, which means cautionary. And then there's a red zone, don't even think about it. Uh-huh. And it will tell you broccoli, severe gas, can cause inflammation of the body, abdominal bloat. So it'll actually tell you the effect it has on your body. So that's why I tell people the inflammatory food test is one of the most important tests that I have besides the basic labs I have people take. And whenever I work with any celebrity or anybody, I always would suggest blood work first. I want to know what's going on with your body chemistry, because I don't care how hard you train and how well you diet. If you have a hypothyroidism and your metabolism is sluggish, you're not going to burn the fat. If your testosterone is low, especially if you're free testosterone, you're not going to be able to build muscle as efficiently. So you need to know what's going on with your body chemistry before you start proposing you to take supplements and what foods to eat, because you need to know what's going on with the body chemistry first before you do anything.
This sounds like this is what bears a lot of the people's frustrations with not getting results, because they have all of these underlying things going on. Let me ask you, how about gut health? Do you address gut health with people?
Totally, because if your gut is listen, you think of how much people have abused their bodies, especially what's going on. People need probiotics. They need to be able to. Sometimes people need digestive enzymes. Sometimes they just have had trouble digesting food over the years. They've had trouble because they've skipped meals. Like, for instance, I know people that haven't eaten breakfast for 20 years. They may have a half a sandwich or a salad, and then they gorge their body with food at night. Well, guess what? Now a trainer tells them, well, you need to have at least a protein shake and some oatmeal and egg whites in the morning. They go, oh my God, Mike, I wanted to throw up. It felt so bloated. The body is not producing the enzyme to break it down because for 20 years they haven't eaten breakfast.
Doesn't expect
a comprehensive enzyme, multi-enzyme to break down the fats, carbohydrates, the protein, because their body is not secreting it anymore because they've been going so long without eating breakfast. So It's a matter of understanding the body and easing people into it. So if they haven't been eating breakfast for many years, I'd highly recommend a multi-enzyme, which is for proteins, carbohydrates, and fats, and small amounts of food. Reintroduce breakfast. But don't be telling them, hey, yeah, I have this. They're not going to be able to eat it. And if they do, they're going to puke it up. And I've seen it over and over and over and over and over so many times. So you have to take an assessment of your client before you start any kind of program. And a lot of trainers just like to use the same diet, the same workout. I see trainers in gyms, even like Equinox, Gold's Gym, LA Fitness, and they're bringing in clients, and there could be a woman that's 40 pounds overweight and a guy that needs to gain 30 pounds, and they're running him through the same machines like an assembly line because they're bored. They just want to get them in, they want to get them out. Each person has different needs, and they should have different diets and different workouts. But I see too many trainers that are just bored and they just want to run them through back-to-back clients, and they're just running through circuits and machines. And I think people should be using bands, cables, barbells, dumbbells, and machines. Because when you're using the machines, you're not improving your hand coordination, your balance. You need to stimulate the auxiliary muscles, especially a lot of people are using all these chest machines and go, I don't understand why my chest is so flat. I can't get my upper pecs. Well, you know what happens when you use dumbbells and you're squeezing the dumbbells at the top? You're not going to get that on the machine. So that's why I tell people, use a combination of all your tools to mold people's bodies. But don't keep running people through the same workout, and change it up every 8-10 weeks. Because not only the body's going to get stale, the person's going to get bored. And that's another thing which made me a great trainer was I trained with my clients. I'd say, come on, let's do it together. And I became a training buddy instead of a trainer. And I loved it. And that's the thing is you have to really love what you do and care about your clients.
Since you were a Mahalik student, I would be afraid of what was going to be coming. So, hey, Mike, tell us about your amazing business, the breadth of your business. What is the main, because you do so many things and you help so many people, but overall, what would you say the thrust is of your main business today?
I'm a facilitator. If someone needs anything, I have a lifestyle management company.
Yeah, how's that work? The concierge.
It's a lifestyle management company. I deal with a lot of high net worth individuals that have needs for things, and their assistant is so overburdened with taking care of things. If they need to hold a summit event for their corporation, I have party planners. If they need a private jet to fly somewhere, I have private jets that are sitting at private airports, ready to fly them anywhere in the world.
Are these like subcontractors?
Yeah, everybody's independent contractors. I have a team of concierges that take care of all the needs. It could be, I need a crisis management team. I need a hairstylist for my wife. I want the finest tennis pro in the world. I want to get married at the Vatican. I want a dream experience. I want Taylor Swift to perform at my wedding.
Wow.
Anything. My team facilitates their dreams come true.
You know, Mike, you're Italian like me. You're from the Northeast, and you got all these connections. Are you trying to tell us something here? No,
well, it started off when I was training an actor. He's like, Mike, I need to get new tires for my car. I had another actor said, I need to get bulletproof windows and bulletproof doors for my Escalade. Hey, I know a guy. And then he evolved to, I started building a network of amazing connections around the world.
Did this evolve, or was this something that you constructed?
I first started with personal training, health, wellness, and then people go, hey, I need this. Can you help me out? You're so good at taking care of things. So I said, sure, why not? And then I started recruiting concierges that worked for all the hotels that I knew from years ago. And I hired them to work out of their home. And all my concierge team is single moms that I love and adore. And a single mom will work harder than any man. I'm telling you right now, they are my soldiers.
Why is that, Mike?
Because they know about responsibility. They have to feed their children. They have to keep a roof over their head. And they'll do anything for their children. You ask any mother out there, they will die for their children. They will jump in front of a bus to protect their children. And if they know they can make money at home and take care of their children and not be able to be away from their children, that's even better. So all the women that work for me are single moms that I've developed strong working relationships with, where they respect me, I respect them, and they work for me, and they've been experienced as working as concierges. It just happened that they were single moms. And it's just so funny that they also were very good concierges, and they had retired from being concierge or taking time off from working at hotels, and they had children. And a lot of them ended up they went through a divorce. And then I remember they called me and said, hey, Mike, a lot of people, can I get a job? And I go, wait a minute, I could use help. So it just organically evolved into creating my team of all these wonderful people that I worked with years ago. And then they ended up being single moms, and I put them to work. And that's why I have my company thriving, because I have loyal people working for me that appreciate all the things that I've done for them.
One question before we go to our list here of people that we want to just get some background on. So I take that you don't approach any client, even to this day, with the attitude that you're doing them a favor. So everybody is of high value, no matter what.
I don't care if it's a movie star or whatever the person is. Everybody gets treated like a movie star. They get 100% attention from any of my trainers or my nutritionists or the chefs or the chiropractors or the physical therapists that I assign with them. I tell everybody, you are an extension of me.
Wow, that's good.
You need to do this because you love what you do. I don't want you to be an actor that's just a side gig until you get that big role.
You don't want to be involved in anything that is of low quality or not successful.
No, because it reflects on me. You do a poor job, it reflects on me.
Right. Well, I wish more people thought that way. Let's do our list here, Mike. You're doing a lot of good work. You're helping people stay young and feel good and function and be their best. Got a list here. You're going to just give me a couple of lines of what you think, what strikes you in your head with this amazing list here of people. Joe Weider.
Joe Weider, dear friend, mentor. He inspired me and many others. And he was a straight shooter, called it the way it is. Never candy-coated anything. And that's what I think you could tell when someone's a true friend, when they don't candy-coat it, when they tell you straight out what they think. And Joe helped guide me through my career as a bodybuilder, but he also became a very dear friend, especially towards the end when he wasn't doing well. I kept in touch with him to the very end. But him and Ben were very dear to me. And they
would there be bodybuilding today if Joe didn't exist?
Not to the level it is today. Arnold would not have what he is today. No. And many of the other bodybuilders who inspired others. So right. Joe and Ben were the leaders, the pioneers, along with Dan Lurie.
Yeah.
Cannot forget Dan Lurie.
Right.
He was a very good man and did the best he can. And him and Joe Weider were competitors.
No, I know that. They started off as friends and business partners.
Yeah.
Things degraded. Steve Mahalik.
Great guy, a maniac. I love the guy, and it's a shame that his life ended the way it did. But it's just Steve was in a bad place, and unfortunately, he had mental health issues, especially towards the end, and it's a shame. And he did a lot of great things for many people, and
Did he help early on? Did he teach you some things that really ensure that you were on the right track early?
Yeah, but what I did was I filtered out the really extreme things because I knew what he was proposing was not going to be productive for me to do, especially for a long period of time. I tried a lot of the things he suggested, and I thought it was too dangerous, and I didn't want to take a chance injuring myself because his training methods were very extreme.
Right. Number 3, this is kind of a two-tiered, and this amazes me. But I'm with the top guy here right now in the industry. You're a top guy. Sly Stallone and his brother Frank.
You
mentioned earlier before on the air. You mentioned
Frankie and I are very close friends, and I'm friends with Sly too. And but Frank and I is my boy. He's my wingman. We go out, we have a good time, have a lot of laughs. Sly and I, Frankie and I go to Sly's house for the fights on Saturday nights when there's big fights. We go to lunch quite a bit. We have a few favorite restaurants we go frequently. Right now we can't go because of what's going on, but Sly and Frank have become very dear friends of mine, and I respect them, and they're family friends. So I'm very tight with sharing personal things with other people because I keep my privacy with my friends, especially high-profile people that I work with, because I want them to feel safe with me, and I'm very discreet. But publicly, we're out. We have a good time. We have a lot of laughs. Sly is a very, very dear friend. He's very polite. We could be out to lunch, dinner, whatever, and he'll do a selfie with someone. He'll put his arm around them. He is very, very kind and respectful. There's a lot of other celebrities that will not do selfies, are very arrogant. Yeah, wow. They're not very nice.
Wow.
And I'm not around those people.
No. Well, why would you say that, and even I know Troy Zook knows Sly too, and he says how fastidious he is with his health and his longevity and why is he so driven to maintain this physicality even though he's 73? I mean, that it's necessary, but
he's a competitive guy. He thrives off of training hard. He thrives off of feeling vibrant. He enjoys being physically fit. And so does his brother Frank. They're both the same. They're like bodybuilders that never competed, but they have this desire to be physically fit. I mean, Frank and Sly would go to Mid-City Gym, and Tom Minicello's gym in Mid-City, gym in Midtown Manhattan, and they would train there with construction boots, construction gloves, Levi's shirts, and old school. But they both train for the purpose of doing it for themselves, feeling strong, feeling healthy. Sly, of course, gets ripped for movies, but even when he's not doing a movie, the guy's shredded.
Always. How much do you think it hurt him for Copland, where he gained 30 pounds? Remember that movie?
That was tough. Psychologically, it was tough too.
Yeah.
But
he said it took him a long time to lose that afterwards.
Yeah. No, it's your body, the hormones get messed up because he was really heavy.
Yeah. You had to do it for the role. Number 4, John Defendis.
Dear friend, we went to Trinidad.
John and I talk almost every day.
Yeah, we went to Trinidad. We lived off of goat meat wraps and Kentucky Fried Chicken.
Did you go there to train for an extended period of time, or?
Well, we were there. Johnny was doing seminars, and I came there with him to do the seminars with him. And he was doing those 500-pound incline benches, and people were just awed by his brute strength. And we were just wearing like crazy wear shirts platinum wear pants, and
T Mike.
we look like, yeah, T-Mike. We look like clowns. And by the time we got back to,
Mike, you know, when you're that big, you could pretty much get away with it because nobody's going to say anything.
yeah, but no, don't get me wrong. They thought we were like gods. Johnny and I go, geez, Mike, wouldn't it be great if we were treated like this in the States? They absolutely looked at us like two gods. And we went on this TV show in Trinidad, and they wanted to know why we were training to be so big. So I said, Johnny, let's make up a story that we're getting ready for, a movie, the Godfather movie, and we had to get ready for the roles. And we just went with it. But we just had a blast. We were in a third world country. The gyms were like prehistoric, but the people were lovely. We went out, we had a good time, we met people from all over the world. We went to people's homes that we didn't even know, and they invited us and they cooked for us.
Wow.
So we had a really great time, a lot of laughs, but I'll never forget it. Johnny's good people. He's a spiritual person. He cares about his people.
He's authentic. He means it.
Yeah.
And you don't even have, him and I talked about this the other day. I said, John, people can tell, people, listen, I have found that you can be the lowest shit shoveler from Sheboygan, or you could be the captain of highest industry. People could sense bullshit, no matter who they are, ultimately. And I said, John, you made it this far. People know you're real, and just like you, Mike. The next one, number 5, you mentioned him, but, just your general impression of Al Pacino.
He is a wonderful human being. He always treated me with just utmost respect. He's a caring, loving individual. He's just very humble. He doesn't drive fancy cars. He doesn't live in a fancy house.
Really?
He has a very modest lifestyle.
Wow.
Yeah, he's very modest lifestyle and respectful. Very courteous, caring. I mean, you would not think
he'll take a selfie with you, right?
Oh, in a heartbeat.
You mentioned with Matt Damon, you had to train him into shape for Bourne Identity.
Matt was smoking like 2 packs of cigarettes a day, drinking a 6-pack of beer, 38-inch waist. The Universal Studio, the producers had me say, Mike, you got to get him to stop smoking. You got him to stop drinking the beer.
What was this? Mike, what was his philosophy? I'm going to smoke a lot. That'll keep the weight off, or?
No, he was just a young guy that liked to smoke, drink beer. Him and Casey Affleck, and Ben Affleck, they all hung, and in Massachusetts, that's the way they were. They just were street guys, just street guys that like to smoke cigarettes, hang out in the street corner, have just good old people. I mean, Matt just became very, very successful, but I was the one that transformed him into becoming an action star, because before that, they hired me specifically because they said, we're taking an ordinary actor and we need to get him ripped and make him an action star. And that was my job.
Those fight scenes are amazing.
Oh yeah.
I was shocked when I saw them because I never looked at them.
Fight scenes, just so you understand it, is years ago they used to actually be throwing the punches really fast. Well, when they do the fight scenes, like Matt will throw the punch and it'll be going this slow, and then it touches the person's cheek and it'll be like, they'll go like that, and then they do.
Well, I lost you for a second, Mike. I think I lost you. You should come back in a second, though. Anybody out there, you can ask questions. We're almost done here. Mike, can you hear me? Let's check something here. Well, it looks like we lost Mike. I want to thank him very much for being here. We only had a couple more people to go over, Arthur Jones and the Menser brothers, but he did a great job. You can still ask questions here if you want to type them in, and we'll get back to you. I want to thank you for being here tonight. We've got Bill Grant on Wednesday, Mr. World, Arnold's training partner, and the guy maintains his longevity. 73. He looks like he could be younger than me. I mean, he kicks my butt very easily. And then on Friday, we have Rick Drazen, a Hollywood stuntman, Arnold training partner, professional wrestler, the designer of T-shirts for Gold's and World Gym. And he's been in a lot of movies with a lot of big-time people. And he is also in fantastic shape at 76 years old. So we're going to talk to him. But I want to thank everybody once again. Thanks very much to Mike Torsha, one of the legends of bodybuilding, one of the guys who really translated his bodybuilding success into real world business success. Because remember, in the words of Martin Luther King, it's wonderful to do good things, but without money, it's awfully hard. So if you can make it doing something that you enjoy, you're ahead of the game. I do thank you once again, and hopefully we'll keep going on and getting bigger and more expansive in what we do, and keep getting these celebrities and the people who seem to have figured out what to do to stay young and feel great and feel like a kid until the day you die. Oh, here's Mike. I think we got back. Hey, Mike. Oh, okay, good. I went into a little rambling there, closing it out, but now that you're back, tell me about Arthur Jones. Just something, one weird story about Arthur Jones.
Okay, so, Arthur Jones was like a mad scientist. He was really brilliant at what he did, but he would enjoy watching people quiver and shake and puke after the workouts. I mean, because he liked seeing people go beyond what they normally would do. But in the long run, though, he really liked to see that people would not give up. And he liked about me, because I was a tough son of a bitch. I said, after training with Steve Mihalik, I could take anything you can give me. And I'll tell you, that's the one thing. But he was a brilliant man. He really was kind and considerate.
Speaking of that, what do you think of his impact of Nautilus equipment?
Oh, he was far advanced beyond any engineer that I knew. I mean, Joe Gold was a genius, but Arthur Jones was really the true genius. I mean, as far as design and effectiveness and designing equipment, that cam he created was just magnificent. Which I really feel sad is that the new Nautilus is nothing like the original.
That whole thing with the Nautilus shell, provided various resistance throughout a range, which was a big breakthrough. And he doesn't really get credit. A lot of people don't know that he was a big documentary maker on wild animals.
No, he was, and he donated a tremendous amount of money to various charities that people aren't aware of. But I really felt that he was such a pioneer in the industry, and if they maintained his philosophy and his engineering of this cam and his philosophy, they could have taken that Nautilus, and Nautilus could have been and maintained being the #1 equipment company in the world. But unfortunately, I think his son went off and created another brand.
He created Hammer Strength, believe it or not.
Hammer Strength, yeah.
Well, and finally, somewhat sobering, the Menser brothers. What's your final take on how they ended up? I mean, what was Mike's impact as a bodybuilder, heavy duty, and what served his demise, would you say, for somebody who was so successful?
Mike was a genius. If you talk to him, I mean, he was actually a genius. But he was very well educated, well spoken, very articulate. When he would speak, if you look on YouTube, there's actually some lectures and seminars that he conducted. And he was really smart, but he also reflected back and said, look, I also did a lot of things when I was younger that I was very stupid. He said I didn't have to train as heavy. I could have trained a lot smarter. But he goes, as you learn being a young buck, and you're full of testosterone, that you want to overachieve, which he was doing. He had a lot of him and his brother had a lot of demons, so they would be talking about, hey, I'm going to show everybody. So it was more like training with anger instead of not an enjoyment of the feeling of exercise. So when I was with them, I felt it was kind of dark. So I trained with them for a few months. It wasn't an enjoyable experience, and my body was in such excruciating pain all the time because we were just going so heavy and so intense that I felt I was going to snap something, and I didn't want to tear a muscle. So I didn't continue training with them, but it was an experience. But I think they didn't take good care of themselves. Later on in life, both Mike and Ray were hunched over, complaining of knee and back and shoulder pain.
And they were still pretty young, late 40s.
And they were still pretty young. But they trained excessively heavy, and I think they could have made just as good results or even better if they took better care of themselves. But they got high and piling on the weight, and to the points where I was just like, holy shit, something's going to break. Yeah. And eventually it did. They started tearing tendons and muscles, and they were terrible. Their bodies looked horrible.
Mike, the last one is going to be on you. Name one person that you've worked with at any span, any period of time, who's the most emblematic of maintaining youth health and vitality into their later years. You know, they get it. You know, who comes to mind as far as all the people you've worked with?
I would say the person that I thought maintained his physique and still maintains his physique is Bill Pearl.
Well, yeah.
Bill Pearl always looks strong as a bull.
I think he's 88 now.
Yeah, and he trains regularly. Gets early up in the morning, still trains. Sly Stallone is really, dedicates his life to. He lives, sleeps, weight training. As far as a lot of the actors, they only do it when they're doing a movie. Right. Most of the time, let the body go, and then they'll call me up or have me send a trainer over to whip them into shape. I would say I'm trying to think of another person I think lives the life. There's a handful of people that do take care of their bodies, like Keith Urban. He loves to trains every single day. Him and Nicole, and the Kidman is a wonderful woman, and she trains every single day.
Really?
There's many other people that I've worked with over the years, but I would just say there's a handful of people. Troy Zuccolotto looks Fantastic. Yeah. Johnny DeFendis looks great.
Yep.
There's many other bodybuilders that take good care of themselves. They live a good life. They're good people. And I just think there should be more bodybuilders out there that are out there doing the same thing, doing good things with what their career is. They're in a position where they can inspire others. Well, Jack LaLanne's wife, Elaine, very dear friend. She can do 20 one-arm push-ups.
Wow, really?
Yeah.
And she's what now, 94?
Yeah, I think my 94, yeah.
That's incredible.
Her birthday.
You know what's good, Mike? She still works out in that same home gym with the paneling. That I'm sure they could spruce it up, but it's just like with how Jack had it like 30 years ago. It's still.
And she just came out with a book.
Right.
Moving.
Yeah.
And every time I see her, she's so vibrant and full of energy. And that's how Jack was. Jack was always like this.
Yeah.
Always telling funny stories, always singing, but these are the fun stories that I remember with these wonderful people. That's why I'm paying it forward. We're all paying it forward.
Speaking of that, Mike, I'm glad, I say this to people I hold in the highest esteem, and who am I to judge who's high in esteem? But in my own estimation, I thank you that you exist and you're still out there, and you always will be. And you've always been a mainstay in my mind as somebody who's, one of the trailblazers, and staying on the cutting edge and keeping people, if they want the help, it's there, and they could be their best, and you're not only facilitate the information, but you live that life. So again, it's like I say, I'm glad you're out there and you exist, and you show what can be, for anybody. Anybody can do it, and we're all basically sacks of cells, and what makes us different from one another, the way we direct our chemistry in our minds, so how we think. So, you give them the information, hopefully they use it, and, you're doing good because, in a way you're taking care of, you're not notching down the federal healthcare deficit, maybe just a little, but the rest, otherwise, people, listen, like we go out shopping, whatever, and, I look around and it just doesn't look that good. People are just, the bar is so low now,
Well, that's where I feel technology has worked against us. And isn't it a shame that it took a pandemic to get people to go outside?
Oh
I
yeah.
see more people walking their dogs,
Yep.
pushing the baby carriage, jogging in the streets, but it took a pandemic to get people to get off their asses. And that's sad.
Yeah.
Okay. I've always believed in go to your parks, go to the beaches, go bike ride, get active. Don't just think of going to a gym for exercise. Make going to a park with your dog fun. I created a workout program for kids called Fitness Unleashed, showing kids how you can create a whole workout with your dog.
Oh, cool.
And creating an obstacle course with cones and things and tunnel.
Oh,
And I do this with the Boys and Girls Club. I do these mentor days, and there's like thousands of kids, and I bring all these trainers to come with me, and we bring dogs, and the people bring their dogs, and we show them how you can have a whole workout with your dog.
That's
and
awesome.
that's about getting outside, fresh air, sunshine, vitamin D3. Get out there, be active. And I tell people, look, no matter what, they can tell us to stay home. Get your asses out there. Go to a hiking trail. Just go somewhere. Go for a brisk walk. Get out there, challenge yourself. And when they open the gyms, get in there and get back into it. But I just tell people, get out there and be more active. Don't vegetate in your home and feel sorry for yourself. Get off your asses and get outside. And I have my neighbors out there. I see them power walking. I go, pick up the pace. Come on, let's go. Because I see them, they're walking too slow. I go, if you can talk, you're not walking fast enough.
Zucalato doesn't like when I say this, but I don't wear a watch because the time is always now. Now, do something now. Do it today, man. Because every day that passes is. I'm a pretty good guy, but I don't think there's like the Sandman at the end of my timeline saying, we're going to give Michael Joe another 5 years. No, you don't have a finite amount of time. You better do it now because and I'll leave on this note. Maybe you'll agree. The worst thing you could possibly have when you're at the end of the line is regret. That you didn't do whatever, that you didn't, come close to I don't think you can get your potential because if you actually hit your potential, it's time to go. But it's something you're always striving for. And if you didn't even scratch the surface and dare and, put yourself out there and maybe subject to ridicule or whatever, people are afraid to do that. And, then they have sadness.
Well, I've always said to people, I don't have any regrets because I am who I am today from all my life experiences. And I think it's important that we have our ups and downs because then we get to appreciate life. We get to appreciate good people like yourself that are trying just good things. When you reached out to me, I was like, hell yeah.
Yeah, no. I
love what you're doing, man. You're, writing your books and inspiring other people and taking the time to do these podcasts. This is great. And I can't wait to see Bill Grant, my buddy Bill Grant, Rick Drazen.
Oh, yeah, they're great.
I can't wait.
I get to talk to. It's like if you're into football, you're able to talk to Joe Namath every day. You're able to talk to, Tom Brady every day. I've kind of got that here. And, it's fun. We have fun every day. And I was telling Denise, my girl, I says, I could I really have the confidence. I think I could get anybody to come on here because it's good stuff that is helpful. And of course, you got to choose the right people. There's some people you just don't want to be around because it's not worth it. It's bad karma. You don't want to be associated with that. But I'm just very happy, and only good comes out of it. I mean, it's there's always got to be something good that you can do each day, every single day. Even if it's a real bad day, at least take an hour and make it good somehow. Even if you're lying to yourself.
Well, also too, you made me remember wonderful times.
Oh yeah.
So, I mean, reflecting back on these experiences helped me relive it for a few moments. Was great.
One of my best friends. We'll leave on this. He's a doctor in New York and very, very successful. But he really does everything with his kids. He takes them all over the world. He bought an RV to drive through all the parks and just really goes beyond the pale. And I asked him. He says, "Look, all we're going to have is memories. We already have the house and all that stuff, and the kids are in good colleges, but you're only going to have memories." And when I had my practice, I used to tell my mother said, "Michael, please relax. I have 100 patients a day, 100-hour work weeks." And I would scoff and say, "Ma, happiness is for people who are weak." And I maintained that for years.
Wow.
And my sisters would tell my girlfriend at the time, "Don't marry my brother. You'll have a horrible life." And they would actually say that. They were probably right. I finally changed my thinking what the hell are you doing it all for if you can't be happy? You know,
Yeah.
I thought it was irresponsible. You're too happy and you're not focusing. But you look like a happy guy. You're very successful. So, and you're around the most successful people in the world. So,
thank you. I really appreciate that.
Thank you. This was fun. I knew it would be really good. And maybe we'll get you and Defendus on a split screen one day.
Oh man, that'd be great.
I get up to 6 people at a time on here, and I can think of the right combination where it could be explosively helpful for the people.
Oh, that'd be great. Thank you. Anytime.
Well, Mike, listen, we're going to sign out. I want to thank everybody. Mike, I'll shoot you an email. Okay.
Thank you, Michael.
Thanks so much, everybody. Thanks for your questions. We got a lot of good information. Use at least one element to make yourself a little better tomorrow. And we'll be back on Wednesday with Bill Grant, and that's going to be a lot of laughs. So thanks again, Mike. You have a good night.
Take care.
All right.